I know many, I think I know everybody at least by sight, but I don't know everybody's names, just because I'm kind of all over the board. A lot of you probably know me and my family, my parents, my sister and her kids. So our whole family is pretty much at the parish, besides my brother who lives on the east side. And they've been involved a lot longer than me. Just so you know a little bit about me. Why the heck is this person up here? Some of you worked with me last year in VBS, and you're like, I know you. Like, you're a VBS. I am unfortunately not going to be able to be at VBS this year, which saddens my heart because it's one of my absolute most favorite things in the entire world. I have to tell you, I love Vacation Bible School so much. We've got a big family vacation planned with the whole clan, which we haven't done in a few years, so we had it planned before we knew the dates, so we're all kind of bummed. I know the Keller kids are also like, oh man, we don't get to go, we don't get to help. They're like really upset, my nieces and nephews. So I've been here about 4.5 years, and prior to that, I spent about 15 years working in full-time ministry for the church, mostly in the East Coast. So I've spent a lot of time in Vacation Bible Schools, and I spent a lot of time doing youth ministry work. It's what I do, it's what I love. Unfortunately, right now, God has me very much at home with 2, almost 3 little children, and so I'm not as active right now as I'd like to be with some stuff, but my heart is there for sure. And I love, like I said, I love Vacation Bible School. I worked for a couple of years at St. Cecilia's Parish on Bainbridge Island when I first moved back home. And when I got there, one of the first questions I asked the pastor, Father Mitchell at the time, who used to be here many, many years ago, I said, so, what about Vacation Bible School? And he's like, oh no, we don't have Vacation Bible School here. I was like, what? What? How can you have a parish without Vacation Bible School? Like, it's like the thing of the summer. Like, kids get excited for it. High schoolers and middle schoolers get excited for volunteering it. Like, it's like a thing, you know? Like, why not? You know, just the people who had your position before just never did it. No. Can we change that? He's like, of course, if you think we should. He's like, go for it. So we got the program started, and I am happy to know that it's still going, even as I'm not working at the parish anymore. I'm glad that they're still continuing it. And one of my fondest memories of Vacation Bible School, some of them, is when I lived in Florida for 3 years. There was this massive parish that asked us, my group, the group that I was working with at the time, they asked us to come in and help support their program, specifically working with the high schoolers. They had a team of about, I want to say just the high school, like just the volunteers, like people like you all. I think it was at least a group of like, I want to say like 75. Okay, just volunteers were like 75. That tells you how many kids we're talking about. I mean, this was like a massive gym. Like, I mean, it was the most incredible. I walked in that gym that first morning. No, the couple weeks before, we did a training with the volunteers. My friend Nicole and I walked in, and I was just like, this is a whole other level of anything I've ever seen. I mean, we're like big, but like massive, like nice full stage for the school. Huge parish, super decorated. They're like in the middle of like all these decorations and like backdrops, and they would change backdrops and this and that and the curtains and whatever. I was like, this is like a huge production. And then all like, okay, music comes up, and all of the like these high schoolers come out and they're like doing the dance, super into it. And I was like, this is amazing. It flowed so well, and I just, man, I loved it. I was like, this is awesome. I mean, numbers-wise, it was a much larger parish than we have here, which is why it was a much larger program, but because they're just drawing from so many families. But we have something similar here. We have a great tradition of Vacation Bible School. We have a great tradition of reaching out to these kids, right? Giving these kids an awesome opportunity in the summer. Raise your hand if you grew up, like before this point in your life coming here, you attended Vacation Bible School regularly here at this parish. Or at another parish, like somewhere that you regularly would go to Vacation Bible School. Okay, so most of you have had that experience, right? Like you've gone, you experienced it, you probably enjoyed it. Probably some things that at some point in your life you're like, you know, most kids at one point go through that stage of like, I don't want to do the songs. I mean, last year I had a kid that literally would like run to that door and just stand at the door and like watch me like attempting to like open the door and get out. Like, don't leave. don't leave, because he's like, I'm too cool for this, I don't want to be doing the music, or I don't want to do the craft, or I don't want to pay attention to this, or I don't want to do whatever. It happens, you've either been that kid before, and you're like, yeah, that was me. I was the one, I didn't want to do this, I didn't want to do that. Those of you that were here last year, remember I had my 2 kids in tote with me while we went from station to station. I had the most amazing volunteers that helped me. I was God said. We had great volunteers that helped to take care of my children, as well as our group of VBS kids. It was kind of an insane endeavor, but it worked. And my little Susie, who's 2.5 now, was like, I want to play all the games with everybody out in the field. And I'm like, girl, you're going to get trampled. But she wanted to run back and forth with everybody. I was like, okay, let's pace it down. You're a little bit too small to be running around with the big kids. But then again, with the games, right? Then you've got the ones like, it's too hot, I don't want to be here, they're complaining about everything. It happens, okay? First thing we're going to talk about right now is this concept of servant leadership, okay? Close your eyes for a second. And tell me this, if you feel like you want to share. What does it mean to serve? What does it mean to be a servant? What does it mean to serve? Yes. Yeah.
It means to put others before you and to do everything in your power to help them.
Okay. Put others before you. I like that. Do everything in your power to help. What does it mean to lead? To be a leader. Yep, again.
It means to put others before you, again, and basically the same thing. It means to do everything in your power to help them, and sometimes that just means to take the first step in doing what you need to do.
Okay, open your eyes for a second. Not for a second, but again, sorry. 10-second break, and then you close your eyes. No.
Singular second.
I would fall asleep probably right now. So, servant and lead, these 2 words don't always go together in our mindset, right? Because we think a servant is somebody who has to do something for somebody else. Their job maybe is to serve, right? To be doing things for another. Whereas maybe the leader is the one who has a servant, right? Somebody who's powerful and has a lot of leadership for whatever reason. They think of people who are in positions of authority or higher authority, and you think back to kings and powers, these people always had servants waiting on them, the ones with the leadership. But in our understanding as Christians, it's something that goes together. It has to go hand in hand. Why? Why do you think it has to go hand in hand? Where does that come from? Where would that idea that we have to be a leader, you also have to be a servant, where would that come from first and foremost? Yeah. Jesus. What's one clear example where we can think of where Jesus is being a servant leader and serving at the same time? Yeah. The washing of the feet. Boom, exactly what I was thinking, what I wanted to draw out today. The washing of the feet. What happens in the washing of the feet? Obvious, right? The washing of the feet. But what? Okay, you're you wash his feet, you wash the apostles' feet, okay? But beyond that, what's happening in this moment? Yeah.
Jesus is showing his disciples how to treat others. You're supposed to help them and serve them.
Right. And he says this, right? He says, if you are to lead, if you are to have a position of leadership, if you are to be someone who is following in my footsteps, you first must follow my example and wash the feet. And you've probably heard a million times, maybe some of you not so much, that the washing of the feet was I think Father mentions this in his homily every Holy Thursday probably. It's the lowest job a servant would have. The absolute lowest. So you look at the rung of okay, I'm a servant, and these are the things I do. Maybe I cook, and I clean, and I do all these things, but at the very, very, very bottom of the list was to get down and wash the feet of the master. To wash the feet of the person that you were to serve. And Jesus, who's who is he again? He's God, right? He's coming down and he is washing the feet of his apostles. Again, this idea of and you can imagine, just put yourself in the position of the apostles for a second. They know this is God. They know that. they've come, like, that's why they're there, right? They've come to understand, Peter, especially with his proclamation, Jesus, you are the Son of God. I'd be like, Peter, no, what's going on? This is not supposed to happen. Like, what's happening here? But they let him wash their feet. Right? And so he's giving us this example of how to be a leader and a servant. This concept of, servant leadership coming together. I'm going to talk a little bit in a moment about Mary Magdalene as well, because I was reading the Magnificat this morning, and I had prepared all of this, and then all of a sudden I was like, and Mary Magdalene, she also is this amazing servant leader that I'm going to talk about a little bit later. But we want to lead, right, by serving. You are here as a volunteer in whatever capacity, whether you're going to be helping with a group and going from station to station with a group, or if you're going to be helping to lead a station, you have a position of leadership. Automatic. Okay? Do you remember being in VBS and looking up to your leaders? Right? You're like, yeah, they're here, they're cool, they're hanging out with us, they're taking time to be here with us. You have that memory. Probably one of the big reasons why you're sitting in this room right now is because you had that experience and you're like, I want to now be that leader. No, Cassie. I want to tell kids what to do. I want to spend the whole week being like, no, you don't do that. You do this. You go here. I doubt anybody has that. If that's your mentality, that's why you're here, you need to talk to Miss Morella. You need to go talk to Morella and be like, I think I got my priorities a little bit miscued, right? I don't think anybody's here to be an authoritarian leader and say, I just want to boss kids around all week long. That's why I'm here. No, right? You're laughing at me because you're like, that would be ridiculous. Maybe you're here because you want volunteer hours for something at your school, and that's fine, and that's good. But let's also get back to why essentially, what's the focus of being here? What's our focus? Our focus is to give Jesus to these kids, right? And the most specific way you can give Jesus to these kids is by being with them, being this leader for them. You are in a position of leadership, and the adults, right, who are going to be with you, want to be able to trust you as leaders as well, okay? And this is the point that I want to stress a lot, all right? Serving builds trust. To be a servant, to have an act of service, it builds trust. That's what it did for the apostles, right? It built even more trust in Jesus when Jesus was like, I'm going to serve you. Probably when, after Jesus died, there was probably this, I can imagine this, until Jesus appeared to them in the upper room for the first time, they're spending a lot of time together, right? And I can imagine they're probably trying to help each other and serve each other. It builds a lot of trust. When somebody does something kind for me, when somebody goes out of their way to serve me, to get me something, or just to make sure that I have everything that I need at any given moment, I'm like, yeah, that person's got my back. That person is here to help me out. I want to trust that person even more, right? Because they're looking out for my good. Take your parents. Think of people in your life that you have that trust with. Adults, friends, siblings, friends of siblings, people who just hang out at your house all the time, right? You have this trust when people have this attitude of serving towards you. It builds trust. So if the adults that you're working with, right, that are either your group lead or are manning the station that you're helping out with, if your attitude and disposition also towards those adults is, hey, how can I help, as opposed to sitting in the corner and just being like, okay, I'm just going to wait for her to tell me what to do, and I'll do it. But you are proactively trying to help and to serve her in this sense, right? Think of service and servant as helpfulness, kind of going hand in hand, all right? So the more helpful you are, the more they're going to trust you. And be like, okay, yeah, I can ask them to do X, Y, and Z. Right? I'm a person who likes to have a lot of control over things. To be in charge of things. I like to do everything because that's my way. My husband is very funny about this. Every night after dinner, I used to get really frustrated that he wouldn't help me load the dishwasher. Bless you. Why doesn't he just load the dishwasher? And then he did it. He was like loading the dishwasher. And when he started loading the dishwasher, you know what happened? I found myself rearranging everything in the dishwasher. Because there was a specific way that I like to load the dishwasher. Partly because I unload it, and so it's easy. I know how it's easiest for me to unload it, and I'm always unloading it in the middle of the day when he's at work, right? So I never, poor guy, he's trying to help. He's like, I know it's not where you want it in the dishwasher. I'm like, every now and again, I'm like, it's fine. But what he does most regularly now, because he knows I'm a little bit like obsessive about how the dishwasher is loaded, every night after dinner he'll take all the dishes, because I end up finishing later because the kids need 5 million things in the middle of dinner time. Rinses everything off, sets it in the sink, and just leaves it, because he knows I want to put it in the dishwasher a very particular way. And I don't mind that. I'm like, you know what? He cleared the table, he rinsed everything off, and now I get to put it in the way that I like to put it in. And I put it in there like the way that I pull it out. We have our little system there, right? I like to be in control of things, even the dishwasher. Okay? So I can be the type of person who, in a setting like Vacation Bible School, might be like, I see my volunteer over there not really doing anything, or like seeming like they want to help. I'm just going to do it. Now, in some certain circumstances, I also might be like, man, I got like 5 million things to do. It's not going to get. Hey, you get over here, do this. You get it, and you don't want to take orders, right? Nobody likes to be ordered around. My kids don't like to be ordered around. Sometimes they have to be because they're very small and they need direction, right? But think of it this way. If the adult who's working in the room with you or in the group with you is feeling like you're actively helping to serve, right, taking on that leadership role, then it's probably going to be a lot smoother. It's not going to be like, hey, you over there, can you help me with this? You, can you help me with this? It's not going to feel like giving orders because you're already like in the mesh of what's happening. And this is what the servant leadership concept is all about. Again, it's about being able to like be proactive and say, I want to be a leader. I want these kids to see, and this is also really important, I want the kids to see that we're a team. The adult who's leading us, the other volunteers, whoever's leading the station, like we are a team. We are together in this. We're all helping each other out. Right? Because they see that, they're going to imitate that. Kids watch everything. They see everything. They imitate everything. Now that I have to give the talks, I'm like, everything, they imitate that. And she talks all the time. If you spent any time around my daughter, I'm going to babysit my children. Susie will talk and talk and talk and talk and talk about nothing and everything all at the same time. She meshes together like a book she just has had read to her like 20 times during the day, and whatever she overhears people talking about, gotta be careful on that one, because she'll reiterate what she hears us talking about, something that she saw, something from like 3 weeks ago that she had randomly remembered. I don't even know half the time. And sometimes she'll literally just walk around in circles around our house. She'll just walk in circles and say things, random things. But every now and again, through this like just talking, I hear something and I'm like, I said that earlier. I didn't even know she heard it. Or she'll hear Blaine and my husband, she'll hear us talking about something, and the next thing I know, it's coming up in her monologue of whatever it is she's monologuing about at the moment. And I'm like, and sometimes we'll just look at each other like, we just bought a new car. So there's been this whole thing of like all these things about the contract and the this and the that, and I have to go and just talking about that. I'm like, what? She picks up everything. They're little sponges. Not only in what they hear, but in what they see. So the kids that you're working with are going to pick up on, they're going to perceive, they're going to see in you teamwork. They're going to see, oh, they help each other out. This is what it means to be in a little Christian community. We help each other out. This person who has leadership over me, who has an authority over me in a sense during this week, is also somebody who is very helpful, who has this attitude of service. And that's what we want them to pick up on. They're going to learn a lot of songs. They're going to have a lot of talks. But more than anything, I guarantee you, they're going to pick up and they're going to perceive what they're getting from you all, because we are human. we're relational. Right? Monkey see, monkey do. This is what happens. We pick up on much more of what we see and experience than what we're actually physically taught many times, especially young children. Okay, so we want to give them this example of helpfulness and teamwork within our group, whether it's a group being with a group or leading a station. So let the approach this week be, how can I help? How can I help the kids? How can I help my team? Your team being the other volunteers and the adults that are with you in that. How can I help? And when do we need help? Don't be afraid to ask for help either. If the leader has asked you to do something, the adult who's with you has asked you to do something, or whoever has asked you and you're just like, yes, but I've never done that before, or I just don't know where to start or whatever. Okay, yeah, but can you show me how to do that with the kids? Like if you're with a group, for instance, and the adult who's with you asks you to, I don't even know, like, get the kids organized into a line to get out, and you're like, I don't feel like I don't feel like they're gonna listen to me. Ask her, or him, like ask him or her, can you show me how to do that so that I can do it? Instead of just saying like, oh yeah, I got it, and then you're like, okay, kids, you, come here. I mean, yeah, and they're not listening, and you're like, I'm trying, I want to help, I want to do this. Ask, can you show me how to do it the first time? Because you know what, I'm not confident to get the kids right now all lined up in a row to go. But if you show me, then I'll probably be able to do it the rest of the week. Great. I guarantee you that adult is going to take time and say, okay, yeah. Or somebody else, one of the other volunteers, one of the other youth volunteers that's there, might be a little bit more adept and easier. Okay, ask for the help that you need. Okay? This is not a weakness to ask for help. It's actually a great strength because it will give you more tools. If you ask for help and you learn how to do something, great, you've gained another tool that you can use in your life. Okay? So whatever it is, whenever you are asked to do something that you're uncomfortable with, or you just don't know how to do. So yeah, how can I lead these kids? How can I help these kids? How can I help my team as well? Because it's twofold. All right? And I want to go circle back, and then we're going to take a little bit of a break. Well, two things before we wrap up, because I just remembered something else I wanted to share with you. Mary Magdalene. I was reading the reflection this morning in the Magnificat, and I knew it was her feast day, and then I, like most days, when I sat down to actually read it, I was like, oh yeah, that's right, it's Mary Magdalene's feast day too. She's just amazing. She's an awesome and amazing person for so many things and so many levels. And as I was reading the gospel, and then I was reading the reflection, I thought to myself, here is another prime example from the Bible, from the Gospels, about, and there's many others we could look at, right? And obviously Christ is right at the top of that list, but it's her feast day, so let's highlight her and talk about her. She went in the morning to serve. Like, she was on her way to anoint the body of Jesus. She was doing an act of service. An act of love, but an act of service when she went to the tomb that morning. And I never thought about that before. Maybe because I was in the zone of like thinking about this talk, I was like in the zone of this. But it just hit me, like she was this servant. And she, as soon as she had her conversion, as soon as she had those devils cast from her, she started following Christ. She joined that group of women who were attending to the needs of Jesus and the apostles. She immediately went to serve. Why? Because she had experienced a very, very profound experience of conversion and of love. And that moved her to want to serve. And then what does Jesus do in this passage? I love it. I love it so much. Every time I read it, I'm like, I love her. Woman, why are you weeping? Whom are you looking for? She thought it was the gardener and said to him, Sir, if you carried him away, tell me where you laid him and I will take him. She's like, I just need to find him. I need to anoint his body. Like, you don't understand. Where did you put him? What happened to this? What happened to him? Jesus said to her, Mary. All he has to say is her name. She turned and said to him in Hebrew, Rabboni, which means teacher. Jesus said to her, Stop holding on to me, for I have not yet ascended to the Father. But, and here's the clincher, go to my brothers and tell them, I am going to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God. Mary Magdalene went and announced to the disciples, I have seen the Lord, and then reported what he told her. He gives her an automatic position of leadership right there. Go and tell them. She was the first one to witness the resurrection, okay? The first one. Through her act of service to go to anoint the body of Jesus. So she's this great combination that we see as well of this servant leadership. She takes that act, she has out of love, she's moved to go and do this act of service, and then Jesus even takes that even further and he says, you will have this leadership. It's not a hierarchical leadership the way that Peter's the Pope, right? But she suddenly has a spiritual leadership for sure, I can imagine, over all the apostles and those first Christians. She was the first witness. She was the first one that was sent to evangelize, to tell the good news. So just to contemplate some of these examples, there's a lot of the saints we can think about, but then I also wanted to highlight our former Archbishop, Archbishop Sarton, was a person that I had the great grace to go on pilgrimage with, 10 years ago now. Seems like it was just yesterday, but I got to go to Poland with him and my parents and a group of people from the Archdiocese and other people from around the country that he knew when he'd been in different places. And I never met him before. It was the first time I met him. And he knew my parents pretty well, but met me, knew me, what I was doing at the time and all of that. And then I moved home a few years later, 6 years later or so. Ran into him, I went to an event with my parents, he was there, I kid you not, by name, hey Cassie, how are you doing? And I'm like, I haven't seen this guy in like 6 years, okay? I spent like a week with him in Poland on pilgrimage, but like, I haven't seen him in ages. How's everything going? Your parents told me you're moving back home, whatever, like, I've been praying for you. The man remembered my name. He's the Archbishop of he's the Archbishop of Seattle, and he remembered my name. And he knew that I was moving home. He had remembered a conversation he had with my parents about me coming home. Wanted to see how I was doing. Do you need anything? I was like, I'm good. You've got a whole archdiocese to run. Like, I'm good. I can handle, like getting back into the church or whatever. Saw them subsequently several times. Always very personal. Always, always, always. And I remember very specifically on the pilgrimage in Poland, he had had back surgery just a few years before he retired. His health was pretty bad, but he had had some other health issues prior to that. And it was pretty obvious sometimes if you could pretty obvious. If you're the kind of person who can look at and really empathize and really kind of to feel how people are doing, there was a couple moments where it was obvious to me where he was in a lot of pain and he wasn't feeling very well, but he kept completely giving himself in this service. And it was really impressive. I think it was the most amount of time I've ever spent, probably with with a bishop, just because we don't usually just sit down and spend a week with a bishop. But I was really impressed on that pilgrimage to see how he, as a leader, and a very good leader, very good man of faith, very well formed, excellent bishop, was very much a servant. He would walk around at dinner, say hello to everybody, make sure he'd talk to everybody, do you need anything? Is everything okay at your table? Whatever. Every night at dinner, he would always make sure everybody was taken care of. He would walk through the buses, the tour buses, and just check up on everybody, the same. Very down to earth and very humble. And I wanted to highlight that just because he's somebody that's not either just from way back when, or this saint that lived and did these miraculous, amazing things. He was our archbishop here for, however long, many years here. And that's the attitude. He didn't let the leadership go to his head no, I'm in charge, so let me be in charge. No, just I'm here to serve. And let that be our attitude. I'm here to serve. I'm here to help. This is why I'm here this week.